Hi and welcome to It's About You, the show that talks about things that matter to you. I'm Fanashi. So in 2020, the Department of Statistics shared that gig workers made up of more than 26% of the labour force. That's about 4 million people, and most of them are youth. With COVID-19 as well as the rapid advancement in technology, Malaysia's jobs landscape has been changing so rapidly, and gig economy is definitely expanding, but not without challenges. So here to talk about all this, we have Amanda Yeo from Emir Research and Zaim Mohzani, from co-founder of Nation Building School and NGO tackling unemployment among youth. So let's get this started with the basics first. Gig economy, right? Obviously, there are pros and cons to not having a 9-to-5 job, like most of us do. But for youth especially, fresh graduates or, youth that are in between job, for example, why do you think they opt for this kind of, gig economy lifestyle per se? Zaim?
I think it's both a want and need. I think I would say a minority of people want to work in gig jobs, and when I say gig jobs, this is not just food delivery or ride hailing. It's also computer programming. Okay, and I think many people opt for this lifestyle because of work-life balance. They want to spend more time doing their own things, but from my own experience, actually, a lot of people work in gig jobs because they have no choice. There are not enough good quality jobs in the market. There are not enough jobs per se, and so they opt for gig jobs that we see today, as what you mentioned earlier.
Actually, I totally agree with this because nowadays, especially recession is coming, so the job available in the market become lesser. And then especially Malaysia case is like there are like less semi-skilled and even high-skilled job in the market. So like when the time the young people they just finish their university studies, they also like have limited choices. And nowadays, if let's say they want to like even like have the interview opportunity, also can be quite limited because like they will see your resume, then afterwards they will see like how you perform from the interview. Then from the interview, they only will select the best candidate.
So it's a very challenging landscape for you,
Yes.
job landscape for you, especially fresh off, graduation, not really knowing what to do, and gig economy, I guess, or gig workers seems to be like an easier option to some who are struggling, just to meet ends meet.
Yes.
So now, in Malaysia, I think when people talk about gig economy or gig workers, like you said just now, people immediately think of e-hailing drivers, Grab drivers, right? Or that it's mostly for low-skilled workers, for example, or that they do it, it's just a part-time thing, I'll look for a 9-to-5 job later, for example.
Yeah.
So this is some of the things that are surrounding, the misconception, I guess, the issues around gig workers. So what are your thoughts on this? What are we missing when we talk about, the gig sector? What are misconceptions that people should know about? Zaim?
Yeah, so you mentioned some already. One of the things I think is a major misconception is that gig jobs or gig workers are only for millennials and Gen Z. Not true.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of them are actually older folks, right? And I think you've come across this before. If you order food or delivery for items, even drivers, right? P-hailing drivers. Actually, many of them are older, not necessarily young ones, right?
Yeah.
They're actually not necessarily young. There's a big misconception, and secondly, I think people think that, as you mentioned, and then to your point is, people think that this is a irregular, one-time. Actually, gig jobs can be pretty intense, right? I think of it as 996 to make a good living. You work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, and that's really tough. That's tough life, right? And people might consider it 3D job as well because it's not easy, especially on motorcycles. It's dangerous. This is dangerous. A lot of accidents actually involves riders that are on motorcycles when they do their job. So, and obviously the other point to add is that these are not necessarily jobs that are low skill as well. I mean, a lot of people like you, they are called digital nomads, for example. They might go overseas. They might be in Malaysia. They might travel different cities in Malaysia. And
most
they
of
do
them are tech savvy
tech
as
savvy,
well,
exactly,
right?
Yeah, technopreneurs and startup founders are also, you can classify as self-employed, also gig workers if you look at it.
What about you, Amanda?
So basically, why these gig worker tend to have a lot of misconception because like for Department of Statistics Malaysia, basically they define the employed person as the individual who work like despite only 1 hour a week, but they still classify as employed person, but ideally the employed person should be the typical employers who work like at least 8 hours per day in a 5-day work week. But Department of Statistics just make the definition like wrong already, and then make the gig workers also classified under the employed category. And then also like the gig workers, as what Zaim said, is like sometimes they have to risk their life to ride the motorcycle around, and then the working hours, it can be quite long, because sometimes if let's say like one day 8 hours, they only can get 100 or 200 ringgit. It might not be enough for him or her to feed the family. So sometimes they might need to work 12 hours a day in order to survive, and maybe like in a 7-day week, maybe they have to work 6 days, and then each day 12 hours to survive.
It's definitely, not what we experience here, 9 to 5 jobs. There's a lot of things that we can pick up here. There's job security, job stability, like you said just now, some of these are dangerous job. So nitty-gritty of the stuff, right? We'll talk about solutions later, but let's talk about challenges faced by especially young workers, right, in the gig economy. Amanda, what do you think are some of the challenges that you face?
Actually, for the young workers especially, because when they just started working, they will not really have the experience, and then sometimes maybe like when they engage in the gig platform and then they try to find the job online, maybe they will like have the financial scam from the job platform, because maybe the job platform is not verified by Malaysia government, for instance. So actually this can be the issue. And then another thing is like because in general gig workers, they also not really have very good access in terms of social security, and also in terms of the loan. So it's like if they want to expand the business or they want to have more social security, it can be very difficult. I understand that actually the government, like during the past 2 years, they try to do something to like increase the social security coverage, and also how to say to have more loan access for these gig workers. But because like nowadays more and more Malaysians are going for the gig jobs, then it might be quite challenging, and maybe the financial institution can be quite selective in terms of like assessing the loan.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely an expanding economy, like sector of the economy. What do you think, Zaim, some of the challenges?
Adding to Amanda's points, and these are actually brilliant points. First, persons with disability, OKU. They're the most vulnerable. They don't have access. They're limited access to gig jobs, and even if they do, the scope is limited. I think that's a big issue affecting persons with disability and the OKU community. Second is the lack of career progression. So we're talking about majority of these jobs which are actually low-skilled jobs. If you do this job 996, right, you work long hours and for a long time, there's actually a lack of career progression, unlike full-time employment, full-time formal jobs, where you can actually level up, right? Even if you work as a cashier in a restaurant, you can progress to be a manager, for example, right? But if you work as a rider or as a driver, limited room for you to
grow.
To grow, and
there's no professional development
there.
Yes.
I think all this requires some sort of regulations, some sort of framework, which we will probably discuss about, when we talk about solutions later. But now, gig economy in general, Zaim, I would like to ask you, since you work in sort of tackling unemployment amongst youth, right? Like you said, not just in Malaysia, it has been touted as a solution to unemployment, because it does create more job. Be it what kind of job or the quality of job is a different separate matter, right? But it does create more jobs. So what are your thoughts on the gig sector, specifically on tackling or being a solution to unemployment, especially among youth?
I think maybe a more different view on this. I think that yes and no. Yes, in the sense that it does provide jobs. I would say temporary and short-term jobs, and that's important to point out, because I think that the point is not to be in a gig job forever in your life, unless these are high-skilled jobs that are in businesses and entrepreneurship. Then yes, right, then you can build the next unicorn, right? But more likely or not, these are actually low-skilled jobs. So I think when I say no, I think that there must be a mechanism for them to be trained, upskilled, to them that they can go up and do higher skilled jobs that can pay better and give them better quality of life. So I think on balance, yes and no, but I want young people to work in full-time employment and also high-skilled jobs, because our country needs to go to the direction of becoming a high-income economy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amanda, talking about the impacts of gig economy here, we talk about, becoming a high-income country, for
Yes.
example. Do you think it's overall positive or negative towards the nation's economy overall, or even on a smaller scale for employers or workers? What does it bring, the impacts of gig economy in Malaysia?
Basically, for the gig workers in Malaysia, as of 2020 that conducted by my company, Emir Research, is around like 4 million gig workers. But for now, because like the economic downturn and then like some large tech companies like Amazon and Microsoft, they retrenched a lot of employees.
Yeah.
So I think for now, Malaysia might have 4.6 million gig workers. It will not be surprising, because like nowadays it's like if let's say some young graduates or even like the young professional, they try to change job or try to like get the first job, but if let's say they cannot find a job in the job market, then ended up they have to do some gig work, such as like doing some graphic designs or
Yeah.
doing translation or writing and like stuff like that,
Yeah.
to like make their ends meet.
What about you, Zaim? What do you think are, impacts of the gig economy to the nation, impact of the gig sector to the nation's economy? Is it overall positive or negative?
Yeah, I think a neutral stance. I think it's closely linked to the contribution of digital economy to the economy. So, as what Amanda mentioned, big tech companies which provide a lot of these gig jobs, the figures is close to a quarter or 1/4 to 1/3 of GDP comes from digital economy, and it corresponds actually with gig jobs. So gig jobs give, according to the diplomat statistics, projected to be 30% by 2020. I think it could be lower than that, but it's big, right? So 1/3 of the economy, the contribution to GDP comes from gig jobs. So that's huge. But I think when you look at you deep dive and look at the jobs itself, these are precarious jobs that are not, they don't have strong or very little social protection. And what happens is, as we mentioned earlier, is that the lack of career progression means that they're probably stuck at a certain income
level, a
and
certain
also a
point.
skill set as well. So
Yeah.
I think we have to be cautious. I think this is not neither positive nor negative, but looking at the issue and trying to see whether we can find solutions to look at this.
Definitely. We'll dive deeper into what Zaim just said just now. We talk about some of the issues. Next, we talk about solutions after this break. Hi and welcome back to It's About Youth. Today we're talking about the gig economy, especially among youth workers. We have Zaim from Nation Building School, as well as Amanda Yeo from Emir Research, talking about this issue. Now, Zaim mentioned just now about how the gig economy contributes to the overall Malaysia's economy. Data by Department of Statistics shows that in 2018, the gig economy actually covered 18.5%, so close to 20%, like you said, of the country's GDP. So clearly it's doing something to the nation, right? But do you think the country has invested enough in this sector? Policies, regulations, assistance, for example, Zaim?
I think, and this is to be fair to policymakers, the amendment to the Employment Act recently has recognized gig workers and afforded them some level of protection. And also there are a lot of digital incentives by agencies and ministries, such as the self-employment, social protection, e-rezeki, usahawan, there are many. So I think that's great. I think there's a recognition of the issues and how do we solve it. But I think it's still, we are still lacking an overall regulatory framework when it comes to the gig economy. I think this is not there. And I think it's important that we have this framework so there's level playing field for all gig workers, not just high skilled workers but also the low skilled gig workers. I think that's absolutely important, because if you don't have that framework, then these issues that we see, safety, occupational health, wages, leave and rest days, they are not there. So
Yeah.
we need to have a framework that can essentially not so much tell the companies what to do,
Yeah.
but to protect the the gig workers from, I guess,
Yeah.
to give them the same
And
level
these
that we
things,
get.
like you said just now, rest days, leave days, occupational, safety and stuff of that. These are pretty common in 9-to-5 job, but they are seriously lacking in terms of regulation or people enforcing, actually to monitor whether they have them or not,
Yeah.
among gig workers, right? What do you think, Amanda? What are do you think the country has invested enough? You mentioned just now, representation, for example. Any policies assistance that are the government have right now that you would like to comment on?
Actually, the recent budget, they do provide like the social security and provide more loan scheme. Just that actually, as what Zain said, there is no regulatory framework for the gig workers. And then actually, I came across a news headline from MDEC. Actually, they do propose the regulatory framework for the gig workers. And then one of them, actually, I just mentioned about that the gig platforms actually is good to endorse or verified by MDEC, because sometimes it's like you don't know whether these platforms are verified or not. If let's say the job seeker or those who looking for more income opportunity, they want to access the platform, but they being scammed or their money already gone, then this can be a tough part. And then at the same time also sometimes it's although have the loan access from the financial institution, and it also open up to gig workers, but sometimes if let's say the gig workers not really have enough credit score, then they still cannot access the loan as well.
Yeah.
So when government, if they can take the active role to let more gig workers to have their own credit score, and then to also inform them where are they lacking, and then from there, when they improve the credit score, then they will have a higher chance to access the loan from the bank. Then they also can expand their own business, because their business sometimes it can be very small scale online business, but if let's say they can have some funding, at least it help them to generate the cash flow and also generate some profit, and at least they can survive.
Would also probably help with the career progression that Zaim was mentioning just now, right?
Yes.
So you both mentioned framework to better regulate, the sector.
Yes.
Especially with budget 2023 coming up, there has been calls, for this framework to exist, right? Zaim, what do you think should be in this framework? So how can government support gig workers better, short-term or even long-term measures?
Yeah, so it's short-term, mid-term, long-term, all-term, right?
All-term, yeah, okay, yeah.
It's holistic.
Yes.
I think part of this is, and I think one thing we have not covered is the fact that the gig workers, only about 5% of them have savings that will last 3 months. So this is a very concerning issue, because they don't have enough savings. So I think part of this, not so much framework, but the multi-stakeholder approach with government, corporations, such as the companies that are having these gig workers, the gig workers themselves, civil society, is to come together and discuss this issue, because this is not being done. And also we don't, because of that, we don't have enough data to know about the gig economy, right? This is a problem.
Yeah.
And secondly,
I think there's only about a couple data that we see
Correct.
online,
Yes.
which is the
Statistics.
number of people in gig economy and how much they contribute.
Correct.
There's no, more specific,
Correct.
who they are, what they do and stuff like that. Yeah.
So then what we find is we don't know this issue in a deeper level. I think this is problematic. So the savings issue, for example, there should be an incentive for government to maybe do matching for every ringgit that you save, the government will give you 2 ringgit, for example. So then you can save a lot
That's
more,
nice.
right? That's nice, right? I mean, but for
Very
gig workers,
ideal.
not for you, right?
Very ideal.
Yeah, correct.
Very idealistic, but okay.
For gig workers. There's also the training component. So there needs to be some level of fully subsidized or some subsidized training. When I say training, I mean like micro credentials. So like a micro degree for gig workers, especially those that are in 3D jobs, to pursue, so that they can then use this micro credentials or micro degrees to then get better skilled jobs or better paying jobs. I think that's absolutely important because you don't want to be stuck in this job for a long time.
Yes.
What about you, Amanda? You know, talking about youth specifically here, what should the government do more to support gig workers, especially among youth? You know, they are the ones who are out there, you know, doing Grab drivers or doing, you know, tech support and stuff like that. What do you think, how can government improve their well-being or their condition in this economy?
Actually, for now, it's like maybe we can not only look into the gig economy itself, but maybe it's like in the end of the day, I think it's very important for the government to provide more high skill and high income job for the Malaysian youth because nowadays the brain drain issue getting more and more serious, and then like some Malaysian youth is like after they graduate, even like locally, they also choose to go to Singapore for work already. So if let's say like in the end of the day, Malaysia still rely a lot in terms of like low cost foreign labor to generate the economy, then ended up it's like they will not fully utilize the Malaysian youth skill or even talent to like stimulate the growth. Then it's in the end of the day, it's quite hard for the youth to get the opportunities, and ended up sometimes they have to go for gig work.
Yeah.
But if gig work does not satisfy them because not enough money and then a lot of job insecurity involved, then still they have to go to overseas for better living. So actually, if let's say Department of Statistics Malaysia, they can have like a specific data about the gig workers, that would be good. And then for now, I understand the Economic Affairs Minister Rafizi Ramli, he actually launched the Open Dossum platform. Actually, that one is cool. Just that for now, as what I researched recently, is like the employed worker is still based on what I mentioned, like only 1 hour per week. So if this definition did not change, then that means the gig workers still end
there's
up
no representation there.
still end up in employed person as well.
We mentioned some of the issues within gig economy just now, but it also begs us to look at structural changes when it comes to youth unemployment.
That's right.
You're looking at youth unemployment, you know, as an NGO. What do you think the government or stakeholders should focus on when we talk about tackling or improving unemployment among youth?
Sure. The numbers are staggering, and I actually will use the word, they're terrifying. Right? She said this recently, they're terrifying numbers. If you look at youth unemployment, you're looking at easily more than half of the 600,000 people who are unemployed are actually below 30 years old. Right? There's a lot of people.
Yes.
The issue actually, the deeper issue that is terrifying is under unemployment, meaning people that are, they are coming out with a degree but they're working in KFC. There was a recent issue of a lady that graduated with a chemistry degree but works in KFC. So skills related under unemployment and time related under unemployment. So you're not working in 40 hours, you're working below. So 1.8 million people are they are under unemployed when it comes to skill, and 600,000 are under unemployed when it comes to time. So that means 2.4 million people are under unemployed. Plus 600,000,
I'm doing my maths.
3 million people in the country are either under unemployed or unemployed, and that's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are, there's 10% of the total population, right? So it's a lot of people that are actually suffering. What it means is they're not getting paid enough. They're not in jobs that they are actually commiserating with their skill sets, and they're not also able to contribute to the economy, to the community, and also to their families. So government must be looking at under unemployment, because unemployment looks great, 3.6%. But if you look at skills related unemployment, it's almost 40%. So we have to look at the solutions. Can be many. So they can be entrepreneurship,
education,
better training, upskilling. There could be job guarantee. So there are many ways to look at this. But look at the problem first, and I think if I'm in government, I have to look at under-unemployment, because that's a ticking time bomb.
Okay, that's probably another segment on this. We are short of time, so I'm just gonna pose both of you the last question, which is the future of gig economy in Malaysia. Is it promising? Is it here to stay? What are your thoughts, Amanda?
So basically, for the gig economy, definitely is here to stay, because like some jobs actually now is being replaced by AI or being replaced by high tech. So definitely there will be more and more people like going for the gig work, and then like because of the recession is coming, so definitely more Malaysia will go for the gig work as well. But like in the longer term, if the Malaysia government can seriously go through the structural reform, then basically Malaysia economy not only can rely on gig economy, but also can rely on the high skill job as well.
So brilliantly put. I didn't want to add anything else, but I think to say that, and I'm going to use a buzzword that everyone loves to use, is future-proof. Right?
Okay.
So there's a if you look at our favorite fast food chains like KFC, McDonald's, Texas Chicken, in America they're already using machines to cook the burgers and fries. And so what it means is there are fewer jobs for people in general, not just young people, but people in general. And so. And obviously there's limitations also to how many people you can upskill. And so there needs to be a conversation on the impact of automation disruption on jobs, an honest conversation, because we need to have it. And some countries in Europe are doing a universal basic income. Malaysia we have not reached that level yet, but we need to have a conversation in terms of how do we future-proof our workforce, because a lot of people will have their job disrupted by technology, including all of us here. You look at ChatGPT recently, replacing a lot of people in terms of speech writers and even accountants.
You mentioned Texas Chicken. Our mama has those
Malaysia
robots that
machines.
brings
now
serving
some
our food, right?
restaurants
Not so well
already
though,
have.
not so well, right? But it's only going to get better. So I hope
Yeah.
that in the long term that we focus on the important things such as skills, training, entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity, and that we future-proof the workforce so that in the future our children, especially our grandchildren, can live and work meaningful jobs.
Okay, there's a lot of things that you mentioned just now that we have to unpack at some point, but unfortunately we are short of time. That's all the time we have on It's About Youth. Thank you for watching. I'm Panashi.